Time to paint our watercolor theory landscapes. Once you have finished outlining and erased all the pencil lines, now it's time to paint. We are using watercolor paint. Now, watercolor paint is hard when we first get it. We have to add water in order to make it wake up. I'm going to start with a large brush, but we also have some smaller sizes. Depending on where you are painting in your picture, you'll want a different sized brush. I always like to start with the biggest one first, and I can go and change it to small later. I'm going to start with my water, which is my cool colors, because remember, we need to have cool, neutral, and warm colors in our landscape. First, I need to add water to my ballerina brush. Whenever I add water in the water cup, I'm not swishing or splashing, I'm gently giving it a bath. Then, if there's a lot of water, I wipe it on the lip. Now, I can bring it to my first color. I'm going to start with blue. Now, watercolor paint is pretty gentle. You don't want to wake it up or scrub it super hard. You just pet it awake like you're petting your pet. Now that I have blue paint on my brush, I can spread it around on my paper. Watercolor paint is very watery. If it doesn't look wet or watery, then you need more water. I'm going to spread it around as much as I can. Look how I'm pulling my brush. I'm not scrubbing or scooting. I'm spreading and pulling. I'm still going to try to stay inside my lines. Now, I'm not perfect, and that's okay, but it helps it to look neat if I can stay inside the lines I drew. As my color starts to get lighter, because I'm running out of paint on my brush, or if I start to see that it looks scratchy, I need to add more water to my brush, wipe it on the lip, spread it in the blue, and come back. There, it's nice and bright again. Now, I forgot my placemat, so I hope you've got your art on your placemat today. That way we can go right off the edge of our paper and not have as much to clean up at the end of class. I'm going to spread my blue around, and I'm even going to add some other colors like purple and green because those are cool colors too. Now, I'm going to switch colors, so I need to make sure all the blue paint is gone from my brush. I'm making the letter X at the bottom of my water dish, wipe it on the lip, and I can watch the paint or the water drip out of my brush. If there's no more blue, then I'm good to go. I'm going to add some green next. So I'm going to gently wake up the green and add that to my water too. Now, watercolor paint can be mixed, but only on the paper. So I'm going to add one color first. I need more water, more green paint. There we go. I'm going to add green first, and if it's too green, if it feels like there's a lot of algae in my water, I think I'll go on top of it with blue after I have the whole thing green. Then I can mix my colors without changing the colors in the paint palette. Look how my blue and green are separate. I did not put my green brush in the blue paint. I'm going to finish painting with green. Now I'm going to wash my brush, draw an X in the water, wipe it on the lip, wake up some blue, and I'm going to mix the blue with my green. Look how it's creating a beautiful teal now. But the thing is, my brush is not perfectly blue because it's mixing with the green. So I'm going to do a quick X in the water, wipe it on the cup, and get some fresh blue. Otherwise, I might bring the green that's on my paper back to the blue paint. Time to move on to my neutral colors. I'm going to make my mountains full of neutral colors. On our paint palette, we have brown. You have a separate paint palette with black. Now, to make those colors lighter, such as gray or tan, you need more water, less paint. So I'm going to start by trying to get some gray in my brush, which means I put it in the water, wiped it on the lip, and then I gently woke up the black. Well, I already think I might have too much. Let's look. Oh, that's not bad. That's pretty gray. Notice how I barely touched the black paint because I didn't want a lot of it. I only wanted a little bit. Because there's a little bit of paint and a lot of water on my brush, it stays gray. That's a nice mountain color. If I want to have black, then I need less water. So I'm going to wipe it on the edge to get rid of the extra water, and then gently wipe my black. Now look how dark I can make it. I can get nice and dark black if I want to have some darker areas on my mountains. Okay, my mountains and hills are neutral. Last but not least is my sky. I'm going to use warm colors in my sky. Now yellow is the lightest warm color, so I want to start with that. Once I get darker, it's hard to go back to yellow. So if I put red down, I can't make yellow happen later. So I'm going to start with yellow so that I have some areas nice and bright yellow. I can always cover up the yellow with some orange or red. One thing you have to be careful of is when your paint is still wet, it can blend and mix together. Look how on my hill some of my yellow sky is coming onto the mountain. Oh well, that's okay. As it starts to dry, I can try to cover that up with a darker color. But I just have to be careful. It might have been better if I waited for my mountains to dry before I tried to paint my sun right next to it, because if they're both wet, they like to mix. Alright, last step is to look over my painting, make sure I've covered everything up. I didn't even need my small brush, but if you have small details or little rocks, you might want to use a different sized brush. I need to let it dry. I'm going to keep it on my placemat and go put it on the drying rack.